do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
What's up, everybody? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So, the Minnesota Timberwolves have made a number of moves this offseason. They've been one of the most active teams so far, and I've actually been pretty impressed with what they've done so far. A lot of people haven't really been paying too much attention to Minnesota over the past couple of years, ever since Jimmy Butler left, and even then, they made the playoffs that one year, and other than that, they have not been there for the last long while. And so for this team, there's really an urgency here in order to try and get good as soon as you can, because you have clocks on these young stars on the team, D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns. While they might be happy right now, in 2 to 3 years, if the team still isn't winning, you're in a pretty bad spot with them, as well as them owing next year's first-round pick to the Warriors, so they have no incentive to be bad. They have no incentive to tank, because even though that pick is top 3 protected, with the way that the lottery odds are, even if you have the worst record in the league, you still, have a better chance of giving that pick away than actually keeping it. So they have no incentive to be tanking again, and so they are going to be trying to be as good as they can next year. And I think that this team is actually going to be pretty underrated going into the season. I've liked a lot of the moves that they've made. I don't think a lot of people are going to really pick up on what this Timberwolves team has done. And the Western Conference is very competitive. But as of right now, I think I'd bet the over on Timberwolves win total for next year, because I do think they're going to be better than a lot of people might expect them to be. Because of the fact that they are going so urgently into winning, they've made a lot of win now moves. They had the first overall pick, drafted Anthony Edwards, of course. He is a guy who can come in and play right away. I wouldn't, expect him to be like the rookie of the year favorite, or, average 20 points out of the gate or anything like that. I don't think he's going to be quite that type of player this year, just because he's not going to get a lot of shots on this team as compared to maybe some of the other rookies would. Because, of course, this team already has Cat and D'Lo, and so he is going to be the third option at best. Maybe you could even say he's behind like Malik Beasley, depending on how significant his role is for them next year. So Anthony Edwards is not going to be the primary offensive option, as maybe a lot of other number 1 picks might be. So he is a guy who's going to come in. I would assume he'll start, but maybe he'll come off the bench near the start of the year while they, acclimate him to the NBA, and maybe he takes over the starting role for Malik Beasley a little later on. Who knows what happens there. But he'll be able to come in, and hopefully they can teach him to be efficient on offense and take good shots and, hone his game, because he's still a very raw prospect. I believe he's only 19 years old, and he still has a long way to go in order to reach his full potential. So I think Minnesota will offer him a lot of opportunities, but not, they're not going to rely upon him to be the lead scorer every night, which I think is good for his development. And so, obviously they have Cat and D'Lo. Karl-Anthony Towns is one of the top 4 centers in the NBA. I think I'd put him 4th behind Embiid, Jokic, and Anthony Davis. But, he is a top big man, and he had a rough last season because the team wasn't very good, and he was injured for a lot of it. But hopefully he comes back healthy, and I think he'll have something to prove next year, because this team is going to be trying to win. Swapped Andrew Wiggins out for D'Angelo Russell. Russell's a much better fit next to Cat. He's a good pick and roll partner. They're friends. They like to play together. And we haven't really seen them, play a lot yet with each other. I believe they only played 1 game together. And so, we'll have to see how all of that works out on the court wise. But off the court, they seem to be, they get along great. And hopefully they'll be able to, work out a chemistry there between the two of them. And then bringing back Malik Beasley on that deal. He's a guy who can be a spark plug for you. He's still young and getting better. Hopefully he gets his legal situation resolved and is able to come back to the team. And Juancho Hernan-Gomez, who they also re-signed today, I think he's a pretty underrated guy. I liked a lot of what he did for them last year, and getting him on a cheap deal, I believe it was 3 years, $21 million, so about $9 million a year. I think that's more than fair for a guy like him. He is another young player who's still developing and getting better. And so, they retained a lot of those guys, right? They're bringing back a lot of the team from last year. All those dudes that I mentioned, plus the number 1 overall draft pick, as well as Josh Okogie, who has been a young, nice piece for them off the bench. He is going to come back for another year. And then they have also drafted Leandro Bolmaro, who I like as a prospect as well. He might not be quite ready to play yet, but he's a big guard, 6'7", with guard skills, can pass, shoot a little bit. So that's a guy that I like as a prospect for them. He probably won't play too much in year one, but I do like him down the road. And also Jaden McDaniels is another guy I'm not too familiar with his game, didn't watch him much in college, but I do think, most people consider that to be a pretty good prospect there, and that was a nice pick for them late in the first round. And now, what have they done to improve upon last year's team? Because right now I'm just describing last year's Timberwolves, and that team wasn't very good. Well, number one, it's Ricky Rubio. He, was brought in on a draft day trade. Of course, Rubio previously played for the Timberwolves, started his career there, played there for many years. And then he left to go to the Jazz and then to Phoenix, and now he's back with Minnesota. I really like the Rubio pickup. I'm not going to lie to you guys. A lot of people are like, oh, well, Rubio's a starting point guard and, he's not going to start here. Yeah, that's exactly the point. This is great depth for this team. You're able to get that contract by giving up James Johnson, who, obviously is not that great of a player anymore. Rubio, I think, is much better, and he can, he'll be able to come in and play that backup point guard role, maybe start in some matchups depending on what you want to do. Obviously, he's not going to start over D'Lo, but maybe at that 2-guard spot, you could even start a double point guard lineup, whatever the coach is feeling that night. I would expect them to kind of play around with that. But Rubio is a guy who is a veteran at this point, a really good passer, playmaker. The shot is okay, not amazing, still could get a little better on that end. But defensively, I think he's pretty solid, and he's a guy who can come in and really fill minutes for you. And if you're trying to compete in the Western Conference for a playoff spot, Rubio is exactly the type of guy that you want to have on the team. As well as they just brought in Ed Davis today. I don't expect that to be, a hugely significant addition, but that's something that you can do. He can help fill out the rotation, getting rid of Amari Spellman and Jacob Evans to the Knicks, which, hopefully they'll be able to find ways to resurrect their careers there. But, and then, like I said, they have a lot of, they have a lot more depth now with that top two. Those two guys, Cat and D'Lo, I would expect them to be a lot more engaged, and hopefully if they can stay healthy, those two we should be able to see, really the full potential of that two-man group, which I think I'm a little bit higher on than a lot of people are potentially. How good is Anthony Edwards right away? If he's better, then that's even better for them. Malik Beasley is a nice piece off the bench. Ricky Rubio, like I said. So really, I think this team is pretty solid. The Western Conference is really, really tough. I would not anticipate them to be a playoff team, but maybe they could sneak into one of those play-in games. I could see them being as high as the 10th seed, especially considering, you have the 8 playoff teams from the Western Conference last year, right? We're taking the Oklahoma City Thunder out because they have torn everything down. To be determined on the Houston Rockets because we don't know if they're going to blow it up or decide to run it back with the group that they have. You would expect, the Jazz have stayed about the same. The Portland Trailblazers probably have gotten a little bit better. The Warriors and the Suns are going to be in there. And then, the Spurs, we don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they still trade away some of their veterans, and even if they don't, the team's not going to be any better than they were last year. The Kings haven't really made any moves, especially if they lose Bogdanovich, they're going to be worse. And so this healthy Timberwolves team, as competitive as the Western Conference is, I could see them making, some sort of a play for maybe that 9th or 10th seed and getting into one of those play-in games. I wouldn't anticipate them to, be able to pull off an upset in the first round or even win any of those play-in games in the first place, but I do think that, they should be in the mix there. And maybe that's a little, it's a little controversial to say, but I think I'm kind of high on this team right now. I like a lot of the moves that they've made. I like their draft. I like the Rubio addition. And I don't think they're quite done yet. I think they're still, working on ways to round out the rest of this roster. So the Timberwolves, man, I'm telling you, I would bet the over on Timberwolves win total. I don't know what it's going to be for next year, but I don't think they're not going to be horrible. I don't think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league again. They're not going to have the first overall pick, and that's that. I would anticipate them to be, just outside of the playoffs in the Western Conference, one of those lower end lottery teams. So yeah, that's the Timberwolves offseason, and that's about all I got to say on them. So, like I said at the beginning, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, ring the bell, leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about the Timberwolves offseason as well. So thanks you guys all for checking it out, and I'll probably see you guys tomorrow with some more free agency stuff. Still going strong with free agency. New things are happening every day. We're probably going to try double uploads for the next couple of days. So that's going to be it for me tonight, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.